Hey everyone, I'm Robbie Cornthwaite.
I'm Daniel Mullen.
I'm Angelo Costanzo.
I'm Marco Flores.
I'm Marcelo Garuska.
I'm Ian Fife.
This is Casio, and you're watching.
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 And you are watching
Purebred Reds, Adelaide United Fan TV.
G'day guys and welcome to the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV. I'm your host Ellis Gelios. We're coming to you today with a preview of Saturday's big game between Adelaide United and the Wellington Phoenix, joined by a guest all the way from COVID-free New Zealand. He's based in Dunedin, a Wellington Phoenix expert. His name is Logan Smith. Logan, thank you so much for joining me. How you doing, mate?
Thank you. I'm doing well. I'm glad to be on the show.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, we're really glad to have you with us. A bit of a different show this time around, getting the expert opinion from the opposition, which is something we haven't done often enough on Purebred Reds. Mate, you must be pretty happy there in your Wellington kit after the win last night against the Glory. You certainly looked like the better team for most of the game. A bit of a scare towards the end, but a fantastic 3 points and a really, really good position that your club is now in to challenge Sydney FC and Melbourne City perhaps for the ultimate prize this season. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it was a pretty amazing victory, really. I thought we were quite good for some of it and then not so good for other parts. We were up 2-0 and playing very well, and then Daningham scored that goal from just a crazy goal, and it's like, what can you do about that? And then suddenly Perth put all the pressure on. But it was a great result, really, and a really good way to bounce back after the disappointing loss to Sydney. So it's certainly an excited camp and an excited fan base at the moment.
Yeah, and you've got plenty of reason to be as well. Look, Logan, we're going to get straight into the preview. So the game is this Saturday at 4:30pm local South Australian time, 7pm if you're in New Zealand at Bankwest Stadium. And it can be seen if you're in Australia live on Fox Sports and the ABC, and I believe Sky New Zealand if you're based in New Zealand and watching this. Now, let's get straight into it. So as I've mentioned, it's a Wellington first focus. So since losing Mark Rudin last season, Logan, could Knicks fans have ever dreamed of being in the position the club is in this season?
I really don't think so. I mean, I actually, when I made my predictions, I actually predicted the club to come last. So I feel a bit stupid now. But certainly in terms of, I think people worried about the squad quality, sort of that we had a lot of young players, but not a lot of experience, and a lack of a genuine striker, because that was before Gary Hooper signed. And of course, we'd lost the likes of Krishna, Mandi, David Williams, so Philip Curto. Safri Singh.
Yeah, it's a long list of exoduses that you had.
Yeah.
But I mean, Ufuk Talay, what a fantastic job he's done. You must be just drinking in the Kool-Aid right now. I mean, it's not often that I've really witnessed the Wellington Phoenix side that's been playing football this fiercely in the competition's entire history.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing, and it's a complete credit to Ufuk Talay and his staff, because like you look at the squad at the start of the season and we were worrying about the spoon, but like when we look at the squads now, you think, oh, that Phoenix squad is really strong, and we think that because they've got the best out of those players and then are considered among the best players in their positions in the league.
Yeah, no question. And I think for both of our teams, it's been such a weird season. We'll get back to this as well, but we've had periods where we've won 4 games in a row and then lost 4 games in a row. Of course, you guys lost your first 4 games. So, I mean, you must really just thrown in amongst the whole COVID situation. You must really just blink and struggle to see, how far the club has come, given obviously the fact that you weren't highly fancied to do anything this season. And here you are now looking like the runaway challengers to Sydney FC.
Well, yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think people could see in those first 4 games or something, but you always do worry when you're not sort of picking up the points and you're wondering, well, are we going to start picking up points, or are we just going to be one of those unlucky teams that plays well and doesn't win all season and, finishes down the bottom, a bit like the Jets last season. But it's completely blown me away, to be honest. I don't think I've seen a Phoenix team this good, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we're just going to continue on Ufuk Talay for the moment. So plucking an assistant that has enjoyed being under the tutelage of successful managers such as Talay himself. Is he now the blueprint for A-League clubs, particularly now with COVID impacting on the logistics of luring overseas managers to the competition? Your thoughts on that?
I think yes, but time's going to tell. We've now got a few managers around the league that are a bit like that, like Carl Vett and Warren Moon at Brisbane, and ones who are sort of not the big names from overseas. The only thing I worry about is that time will probably tell, because sometimes with those sort of lower level managers, you bring in big players and the big players don't sort of respect them. So it can in some respects be easier for them to lose the dressing room. I think with Rudan, who's not that experienced, Western United, there are some of the senior players there who are rumoured and all that not to respect him so much. So it does depend on the direction of the playing talent, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So the Knicks, have they ever looked stronger in your eyes in the entire competition history?
No, absolutely not. The thing this team has that is so amazing is that we've got the consistency and the steel and the winning mentality to win matches, but we've also got a lot of genuine quality in the ranks. And I think looking back at previous Phoenix teams, you look at those successful Ricky Herbert teams, they had the steel and the winning mentality, but they didn't have a lot of quality. And then you look at the teams of Ernie Merrick and Mark Rudan, they had a lot of quality for sure, some fantastic players, but when push came to shove, they didn't have the winning mentality. This team has got both, and I don't think I've seen a Phoenix team that has that.
Yeah, you're certainly spot on there. I recall back to the 2010-11 season, I think you guys made it all the way to the first round of finals, and we ended up beating you at Cooper Stadium that day 1-0. But that was the first time in a very long time under Ricky Herbert where that sort of fairly bland, meek brand of football that you often played under him looked like it was going to come to some kind of fruition, but you fell very short in the end. At this rate, it certainly looks as though, I mean, you've got best of both worlds. You're getting results, teams are fearing you, and you're playing some of the slickest stuff in the competition at the moment. It just seems like it came about so randomly. I mean, the types of players that Talay's been able to put together, obviously, you know, Ulysses Davila, McCowett, the two English strikers that you've signed, you know, Stephen Taylor, really pulling it all together at the back there as well. I mean, you've just got such an abundance of youth and experience. It's such a well-balanced squad. I think without one question of a doubt, you know, you have put the doubters to bed and really been able to put together a fantastic squad under everyone's nose this season. It's a real credit to Wellington.
Well, yeah, it is. And the thing I really like about our squad in particular is we've got a really solid, certified defensive midfield, like the same players and goalkeeper as well usually start. And then our attacking players, we've just got a lot of variation. You've got the likes of Gary Hooper and David Ball and Ulysses Davila, like going forward, who are very different types of players. You've got Ben Wayne as well, who's very young, and he's a different type of player. And then on the wings, you've got Piscopo, who's really technical, and then you've got Soterio, who I think gets a lot of criticism, but he's like almost the opposite of Piscopo in that he's not that technical, but he's a good runner with the ball. So when we play teams and try to break them down, it means that we can, and also they don't know what to expect from us because we've got attackers with so many different talents.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Fantastic analysis. Now, we're going to change tack just for a quick second. I want to ask you, I'm very interested in this. There's been a lot of talk about, I guess perhaps before COVID hit, but there's been a lot of talk in Australia about, you know, where expansion should take place throughout the league and whether New Zealand should be in the conversation for another franchise there. Certainly has its sort of merits as a talking point, particularly given that in this league we are all about derby games. But, you know, assembling a fan base and maintaining a fan base, particularly when, you know, you can have poorer seasons than you'd like when you've got massive pandemics like this, you know, kind of making everyone a little bit disillusioned with life. You know, it's really important to be able to keep your fan base together. To throw another New Zealand team into the mix, would it do the Phoenix more good than bad, or vice versa? Your thoughts?
I'm not sure entirely about the merits of an Auckland team in their own respect, but in terms of the Phoenix, I don't think it will be that bad. I think a lot of our fan base is based in Wellington or has lived in Wellington. And also New Zealand culture, at least, we I think a bit like Melbourne and Sydney in Australia, we're not a very big fan of the big city of Auckland. So there's sort of this Auckland and the rest of the country divide, which I think could be played upon a lot. So I don't think many Phoenix fans in the rest of the country would consider jumping ship. Maybe ones in Auckland would, but I don't think that's that big a proportion of the fan base.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting just because I recall last season, towards the end of the season, you guys travelled down here. We beat you 3-1, I believe. It was the game where Apostolos Stamatopoulos scored and then got sent off. I think he scored a brace and then got sent off straight after. But I recall meeting some Phoenix fans down from Auckland, and they seem to think that there are a lot of Phoenix fans in Auckland. So it does pose a bit of a talking point, I guess, as to whether the Phoenix fan base, all in all, would be affected to see an Auckland team come in. But the A-League has ventured out into Auckland previously, as we know, with the New Zealand Knights. So I guess we'll keep tabs on that and see where it goes. But I think the league might have some slightly bigger issues to contend with right now. But anyway, we'll press forward. So looking back at the game Saturday, Logan, it is a huge game. Both teams coming off wins, important wins as well. Certainly for Adelaide, for you guys, it's more maintaining your spot around that top 4. But for us, we really needed to get back into that top 6. You guys obviously beating Perth Glory 2-1 last night. We beat Brisbane Roar on the weekend, narrowly 1-0. So looking at Saturday, Matty Steinman, a very important player for you, the German. He was booked last night. It means that he'll miss the game on Saturday. As someone that watches this team more than anyone else, how much of a consequence might that bear on the Phoenix's prospects?
I think it'll be an enormous consequence, to be honest. As I said before in the show, that I said that the Phoenix defence and midfield have been very solid, and those players that, of course, played very, very well. And we have an established midfield duo of Steinman and Devlin that do their job very well. But we usually put Alex Rufer in that place. It could be Brandon Wilson, but I think it'll be Alex Rufer, who is not that popular among the Phoenix fan base and certainly doesn't have the same presence as Steinman. So we just had to make sure that our passing game that we're renowned for doesn't devolve, because indeed Rufer and Devlin aren't near as good passers of the ball as Matty Steinman is. That's probably his main quality that he brings to our side.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Rufer's the son of a New Zealand legend, is he not?
I think Winton Rufer is his uncle, I think, but don't quote me on that.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, Winton Rufer is an absolute legend of the game. So if there is a relation there, it is pretty interesting that the Phoenix fans are not that hot on Alex. But anyway, certainly not got his goal scoring attributes. I think Rufer's played something like 50 or 60 games for the Phoenix and not scored a goal yet. Okay, there you go.
And he's a midfielder.
Yeah, we've got a few of those guys in our team. I might not go too far into that though. Now, Talay has come out and put plenty of pressure on your players, stating just after last night's win that you, as a club, are going to do everything to finish second. Now, this really interests me because is intensifying the situation the right thing for Talay to be doing? Or should he be playing down the hype, certainly in the public eye at least? I mean, is this showing that Talay is still a little bit green in some areas? Because, if I think, to what like a Jose Mourinho might do, he'd most definitely downplay his team in every opportunity he gets in the media. So to kind of pin all this on your players, there's expectation attached now quite firmly. Is it the right thing to do?
Well, what you've been saying, I probably completely disagree with. I think it's absolutely the right thing for him to say. The thing I look at is that we're an underdog team punching above our weight. And what you notice in competitions often is the underdog teams that are punching above their weight about 3/4 of the way from the season. They keep on congratulating themselves on how they've done. They just slip a little bit lower down the table. We noticed it last season with Mark Rudan. We got into a really good run of form. The good run of form stopped. And we kept on going on and on about how well we were playing, and we actually got into a poor run near the end that I think, along with the drama with his prospective move away, kind of screwed our season. So I think having the ambition to say, we want to get that far, even though we weren't expected to make the top six. The top six isn't enough now. We're in the position where we should be able to capitalise and indeed make top two. And I think if you look at the teams around us, we should do that.
The issue becomes, I guess, Logan, whether by saying this in the public eye that you no longer become underdogs, right?
Well, I think it's got to the stage of the season where we're not particularly underdogs anyway. Like teams like yours come to play us, and I don't think your fans will be underestimating us because you'll know how good we've been this season. I think it's got to the stage of the season where people realise how good we are. So I don't think it adds that, and I think that in terms of the effect on the squad, I don't think it'll have that much of an effect because I think they're a really strong squad, a squad with a really strong mentality, definitely stronger than that of the American Rudanians that were more so carried by their quality players. So I think it'll have a positive effect on the squad, if anything.
Well said, mate. Now, what have you made of Adelaide this season?
I mean, I watched a decent amount of A-League, so I probably would have watched about half of Adelaide's games, and yeah, probably the same as your fans would be saying. Inconsistent, got some decent players that do really amazing things sometimes. Riley McGree is a fantastic talent, but just inconsistent. I think in your show last week or something, Taylor Regan was touching on how the defensive system wasn't working for them, and he's more of an expert than me, but certainly I'd agree with that analysis, and it has brought down the performance of your defenders and just all-round inconsistency. Yeah, you've clearly got some quality in there, but just not enough to be winning on a regular basis and not losing as often.
Yeah, certainly. I think most people will agree with you on that. How long have you been a Phoenix fan, just to put it to the viewers? And my follow-up question also becomes that of I'm very interested in this. What's it like being in such a unique position? I think the only other clubs that might be able to resonate with you are Toronto, Vancouver, Cardiff and Swansea, in the way that you're obviously a very big supporter of a club that's in a league that is not mainly played in the country that you're based in. It's a unique kind of thing for a football fan, isn't it? I mean, give us an insight into what that is like.
It's quite nice, I think, actually. You wouldn't believe it, but I'm actually a Cardiff fan as well, so I've sort of got a bit of this us against the us against the Aussies or us against the English sort of thing. So I think it's quite nice. It makes us quite a unique team, and we've actually got unique registration rules because we can have Kiwis and Aussies within our home-based players, whereas you guys can only have Aussies. And I think it makes us a unique team in the competition and adds value to the competition. And certainly as a fan, it's very interesting.
Yeah, no question about that at all. Let's look back at Saturday. Where are both clubs going to finish, Logan?
Where I think both clubs will finish, I think I alluded to earlier. The Phoenix are going to finish second, in my opinion. I think Brisbane are going to be unremarkable under Warren Moon. He might be good in the long term, but in the short term, not really. Perth Glory have just had ridiculous losses to their squad, and they haven't played well in the two games they've played. At Melbourne City, we haven't seen yet, but they haven't been that consistent winning team as such. And actually, we can move into second with a draw or a win against you guys on Saturday, and that'll still be having played as many games as Melbourne City. So certainly I back us for second spot. In terms of Adelaide, I was thinking about this one quite a bit. I think you will finish sixth and move into playoffs. I'm not sure you'll do very much in playoffs, but also we haven't seen Western United play yet since the restart. And I think during the season they have been really good in parts and not very good in other parts. So it depends a lot for me how they come in.
Yeah, and absolutely. And Western United will also have 2 games on us as well. So it'll be a very, very interesting end to how things go this season. Now, let's have a bit of fun. Historical clashes between Adelaide and the Phoenix over the course of the A-League. I can certainly think of my favourites, but I want to know yours. You've been a fan for I think you told me off camera since 2010 or thereabouts. You've seen plenty of action unfold between these two sides. albeit I have to probably put on the record that I think Phoenix fans have a bit of, a bit of a reason to not particularly reflect on Adelaide as one of the favourite oppositions they've played over the course of the league. Your favourite historical clashes between these two clubs going back in time, what are they?
So I don't really have that many favourite clashes against Adelaide United. I think we all know that you've been our bogey team as such, and I actually looked it up, and before the win earlier this season, we'd gone 11 games without a win against you guys, which is just ridiculous for two teams who have been in, not that different across the table. Certainly the win earlier this season was a really fantastic one. I know that's not very historic as such, but it was a big moment for us, and probably a reflection, quite a big moment for you as well, is that it sort of sent the two teams in their directions. So that'd be my favourite I can think of. I know we had some wins back in about 2014 and 2013 and such, but I think we had a barren spell from about 2015 to last year where we didn't get a single win against you, and it was really annoying. In fact, there was one game which was a memorable game, not a game I enjoyed, under Mark Rudam, where we've been on a really good run of form, and you guys have been kind of average, and it was a home game, and everybody thought we would win. I'm like, these guys are going to beat us, aren't they? And you did, 1-0. It was really frustrating, but I kind of saw it coming, and I don't think anybody else really did because we were on such a good run of form. So, yeah, those are my memorable clashes against Adelaide, at least in the recent years.
Yeah, it's interesting because no Adelaide fan will forget the game between us earlier this season in, I think, late November. It might have even been the 1st of December of 2019 when losing to you at home in really bad conditions, which I dare say would have suited your players way more than it did ours. We went 1-0 up as well through a freak Nikola Milivojevic goal, and then you ended up winning 2-1. That was really the start of everyone paying attention towards Wellington Phoenix, and it was also the start of our undoing in many a sense, because that loss really started to impact Adelaide. But in terms of my favourite all-time games between the two sides, I've got to mention the Eugene Galegovic hat-trick of saves in that penalty sequence, which I'm sure you'll never forget, unfortunately. That was all the way back in 2012. There was the... this is going a long way back now. 2008, we beat you 6-1 in Adelaide, and Cassio scored 2 free goals for Adelaide United. And the other one I have to mention was also around 2012, the infamous Andrew Durante Jeronimo ordeal. I think it was Andrew Durante, wasn't it? Or was it
not sure,
Musket?
But it was definitely that.
Yeah,
it was definitely that Jeronimo guy and one of our defenders.
Yeah, that was definitely a game that really...
Did he score a hat-trick?
I think it might have been...
He scored a hat-trick against us sometime, I think. Maybe a brace.
Maybe a brace. It's going back a long way, obviously, and really making my mind go into overdrive trying to think, because there's been so many games between us. But there's been some classics. Hopefully that continues Saturday, because I dare say the football on the opening weekend of the resumption was probably not overly glorifying for the league, but it is what it is. We are just getting back into things. I want to just quickly focus on the state of the game overall with you. So, we are getting a slightly different perspective here. You're from New Zealand, so I guess you don't look at it with the same sort of biases as we do, but the game is in a very interesting position. Obviously, there's so much going on, including, the broadcaster deal and plenty of other things. But, I really want to get your perspective on things, because I know in New Zealand, it's not that crash hot right now either. You had some real financial issues with the national team. I think all the youth team coaches for the All Whites were stood down. So where do you see it all going, and how can we take some solace in the shape this league is taking right now? What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm not an economist in particular. I'm a football fan, but in terms of the financial state of the game, it's pretty worrying, to be honest. I think with Fox's deal, they pulled out and then they renewed again on less money, and some of the coverage has been really shoddy. Bosnich was a terrible commentator. Anyway, about the state of the Australian game, I think the financial side is really bad, and I think there's problems in the player development side as well. I think I know people have said that a second division is not very good financially, and I can see that. But I think in terms of getting the players to go through the levels, that'd be really good, because at the moment we have players that are doing well in the NPL, but A-League clubs just don't know whether to pick them up because they're trying to figure out, is this guy actually good or is the NPL just rubbish? And I think it is attainable, at least. Perhaps start the league without Perth, and I don't think you need to have a New Zealand team in it, but certainly in terms of player development, it's got to be the ultimate goal, really. I'm not sure about promotion and relegation, but yeah, that'd be my take.
Do you watch much of the New Zealand Championship at all? What's that like as a comparison?
I do. I don't have much in particular to compare it to the Australian NPL. I'd say it will be its top teams are as good as the top teams in the Sydney and New South Wales and Victoria NPL. Mm-hmm. The depth isn't very good, so it's probably a bit more about the South Australia quality. Although our top teams are likely better. Auckland City, of course, had that great one at the Club World Cup about 6 years ago.
Can't forget that.
And certainly, I think our development system of moving from the New Zealand Football Championship to the Phoenix is probably working better than people moving from the NPL to the A-League, at least in terms of scale.
You talked about youth development being a bit of a worry. Is it really New Zealand? Because when I compare the two national teams at the moment, I don't think there's ever been a period in my life, and I've been watching football for a very, very long time. I don't think there's ever been a period in my entire life where I've looked at both sort of the strongest starting 11s across Australia and New Zealand, and probably, if anything, fancied the All Whites a little bit more than us right
now. Yeah, well, I would if we actually had a team that played, but unfortunately that is a bit of an issue. We haven't had a competitive game since 2017 against Peru.
That's a joke.
Which is pretty crazy. So it's just getting the team playing more often. But we've got some fantastic players in there, like Ryan Thomas, Chris Wood. Winston Reid's getting a little worse, but obviously we've got Singh in Europe, and Kakachi is going to follow him soon. So we've got a lot of players coming through. I think our problem that Australia doesn't have as much is that we have some really good top players, but our depth isn't phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so when you're going into like our sort of backup centre-backs and our right backs and our backup centre-mids, it doesn't look that great, but certainly there's some really good players and some really good young players in there.
Well, Logan, it's been an absolute pleasure getting your perspective on all things Wellington Phoenix. You can be found giving your take in most football forums across the land here and across the ditch. So if anyone is in any of those forums, keep a lookout for the regular opinions of Logan Smith. Very educated Phoenix fan, mate. Very well spoken too. Been fantastic getting you on the show, and who knows, perhaps the next time these two sides meet might even be again this season. We've got to get you back on the show if you'd like to come.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, mate. Well, you take care of yourself. Just COVID situation in New Zealand, you are completely clear, right?
Yes, we pretty much are. We're in what's called level 1 over here, where we're sort of contact tracing, but we can hug people.
No social distancing going on.
No.
Wow, there you go. And I just have to highlight, it is the opinion of many Australians that they'd pretty much just like to see Jacinda Ardern govern both countries at the moment. So props to you guys. You've killed Corona better than anyone else these days. And it's been great getting on the show again, mate. Enjoy watching the game on Saturday. It should be an absolute blinder. Hopefully, it's a good game of football and football wins at the end of the day. But obviously, we both have our respective outcomes that we want most. Logan, great to get you on again, mate. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.